Satan carefully observed Adam and Eve seeking a way to draw them away from God. He knew he could not overpower them by force, so he chose deception. Satan approached Eve in the form of a serpent, not terrifying but subtle and persuasive. He began by planting doubt. He questioned God's command, twisting truth with half-lies. He suggested that God was withholding something good from them, that obedience was a limitation rather than a gift. Eve listened. She did not intend to rebel, but curiosity opened the door. Pride quietly entered where humility had once ruled. Satan promised knowledge, independence, and equality with God. He told her that disobedience would not bring death but enlightenment. Eve looked at the forbidden fruit. According to Maria of Agreda, this moment was not sudden or careless. It was a gradual weakening of trust. The fruit appeared pleasing, desirable, and promising. Forgetting God's goodness, Eve chose her own judgment over divine command. She ate. Then she turned to Adam. Adam was not misled in the same way as Eve. He fully understood God's command. Yet when faced with the possibility of losing his companion, his love became misplaced. Rather than placing his trust in God, he chose Eve over obedience. In that decisive moment, Adam freely chose to disobey. He ate, and at once everything was altered. Grace vanished from their souls. Their minds grew clouded. Their wills weakened, and the harmony they once knew was broken. Shame entered where innocence had reigned. They became aware of their nakedness, not only of the body, but of the soul now emptied of grace. Trust gave way to fear. For the first time, humanity hid from God. When God called to them, his voice was not one of rage, but of sorrow. "Where are you?" Adam and Eve stood exposed, not because God was unaware, but because their communion with him had been lost. Sin had created separation. God then pronounced judgment, not in vengeance, but in justice, united with mercy. The serpent was condemned. Suffering entered human life. Work became burdensome. Death became unavoidable. Yet even in judgment, hope was spoken. God promised a redeemer. In that very moment of humanity's fall, God revealed the future victory, a woman whose obedience would crush the serpent's head. Where Eve listened to deception, Mary would listen to God. Where Adam failed, Christ would obey unto death. Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden, not abandoned but protected. Immortality in a fallen state would have been a greater tragedy. Outside the garden, humanity would suffer struggle and long, but also hope. Thus began the story of salvation. The fall was not the end. It was the beginning of mercy. And from that broken moment, God began writing the greatest story of redemption the world would ever know.